persisted with Mexico and Canada, it would mean billions of losses for the domestic car industry, huge impact for jobs in the U.S., and the administration knows that, as well as congressional leaders.
In regards to a question about the impact or potential impact of tariffs if they were implemented, and he wrote, so far what we're seeing is a lot of cost and a lot of chaos.
Ford CEO Jim Farley has just broken his silence, publicly slamming Trump's new tariff plans as a direct threat to American jobs and the entire auto industry. He's even heading to Washington to confront the administration face-to-face.
25% tariffs. We reached out to Alex Partners, automotive consulting firm. We said, what's the potential impact of a 25% tariff? And they've gamed it out at $400 to $500 cost increase per vehicle.
So, what pushed one of the biggest names in the business to take on the former president? And what does it mean for US workers? Donald Trump is taking one of his biggest economic risks yet as the president of the United States, one that could have significant implications on American jobs and industries. His latest proposal involves imposing a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada, along with a 10% tariff on imports from China.
So, from 5 GMT this morning, the US imposed new charges on goods imported from Canada, Mexico and China.
According to Trump, these tariffs will protect American jobs, ensure foreign companies pay their fair share, and bring manufacturing back to the United States. The thing is, this isn't Trump's first attempt at a tariff war. During his first term, he imposed significant taxes on imported steel, aluminum, and Chinese goods.
President Trump also taking action today on trade, imposing stiff tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum from other countries, blaming those countries for destroying those industries here at home.
Now, he's ramping up with new tariffs, promising that they will boost the economy. At his rallies, he frames it as a fight to protect American workers, declaring, "We're not going to let other countries rip us off anymore." This rhetoric resonates in manufacturing-heavy states like Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. However, there's a major issue. Tariffs don't make foreign companies pay, they make Americans pay. In the case of China, Trump's 10% tariff on Chinese imports is intended to target Beijing, but it could have serious effects. China is the largest producer of EV batteries, which US automakers need for electric vehicles. If the cost of these batteries rises, it could slow down EV production, making the US lag behind competitors like Europe and South Korea. This is why Farley is speaking out and warning that Trump's plan could do more harm than good. On the other hand, Canada contributes essential materials like aluminum and steel, along with components such as engine blocks and castings. Now, if Trump has his way, Ford will face two tough options: absorb the cost and eat into its profit margins and potentially cut jobs, or pass the cost onto consumers, making cars costlier.
It's really going to be a matter of, what the car costs us and how much the manufacturer, can either decide to absorb or pass on. Each manufacturer has their own math to do to kind of figure out what makes sense for them.
Now, it turns out that the risks are even greater for electric vehicles. Farley warned that Ford's battery plants in Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Tennessee could be at risk if Trump eliminates Biden-era subsidies and enforces the new tariffs. Put simply, Ford might be forced to close factories, which could cost thousands of American jobs.
So far as to say that they're part of economic warfare, they don't make sense at all for either party because they're only going to increase prices here while not bringing back jobs, and also they increase the risk of an escalation.
While US automakers such as Ford struggle, foreign car companies could stand to benefit. This means that companies like Hyundai, Toyota, and BMW could be handed a significant advantage. But why is this happening? And why is a Republican president, typically supported by big business, pushing policies that could harm one of America's most crucial industries? For decades, big business and the Republican Party have been close allies, with the lower corporate taxes, fewer regulations, and pro-business policies, making the Republican Party the go-to party for corporate leaders. CEOs rarely criticize Republican presidents on economic matters, but Jim Farley just did. His warning about Trump's tariffs isn't just a passing concern. It's a major red flag that something is deeply wrong. So what's next? Let's take a closer look at the real costs of Trump's plan.
I made the decision 6 weeks ago when the extra 20% tariffs was imposed on China. We already paid 25% on China at that point, so I could see the writing on the wall.
Small business owners are already struggling to keep up with Trump's unpredictable trade threats. According to the New York Times, Trump's targeting of China has thrown millions of small businesses into chaos. If Trump's tariffs are implemented, the first to suffer won't be large corporations, it will be everyday Americans. Car prices will soar, auto industry jobs could be lost by the thousands, and while the US struggles, China may take the lead in the global electric vehicle race. Let's start with car prices. The average price of a new vehicle in the US has already hit a record $47,000. If Trump imposes a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, Ford will face higher costs for essential parts and materials. The problem is, those costs won't come out of the company's profits. They will be passed directly to consumers. Experts predict that these tariffs could add thousands of dollars to the price of an average car.
Kinds, but the bottom line is if you're trying to buy a car, this is bad news. It's going to be more expensive and it's probably going to put a pinch on supplies both in the new market.
As a result, fewer people will be able to afford new vehicles, which will cause demand to drop and production to slow. When production slows, jobs are at risk. The US auto industry employs nearly 1 million workers, with over 170,000 of those at Ford alone, many of whom are based in the US. If tariffs raise cost and kill demand, automakers will have no choice but to cut jobs. We've seen this before during Trump's first term, when his trade war with China led to mass layoffs, and in 2019, Ford cut 7,000 jobs.
First, the Ford Motor Company is cutting 7,000 jobs. That's 10% of its salaried staff worldwide. It's a move that will save the number 2 automaker $600 million annually.
This time, the damage could be even worse, particularly in states like Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, where the auto industry is a major part of the economy. While workers brace for the impact, Trump's response has been far from reassuring. Is he sticking to his plan, or is there a chance he might reconsider?
As President Trump just announced that he will double the planned tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum.
It's obvious that nothing is going to stop Trump from implementing these tariffs, not even Farley. Despite alarming predictions about job losses, skyrocketing car prices, and foreign automakers gaining a competitive edge, Trump has stuck to his usual narrative: blame foreign countries, double down on tariffs, and ignore the experts. This isn't the first time Trump has ignored warnings from industry leaders, economists, and even his own advisors when their advice didn't align with his political messaging. Back in 2018, when he first imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum, Ford warned of rising costs and potential job losses.
Tariffs on autos and auto parts will raise costs for our customers.
The result? Ford estimated that his steel tariffs alone cost the company over $1 billion, and thousands of auto jobs were lost due to the rising production costs. Now, history seems to be repeating itself. So, does Trump understand the consequences of his policies, or does he simply not care? His track record speaks volumes. Despite portraying himself as a businessman, Trump's companies have filed for bankruptcy multiple times, including Trump Airlines, Trump Vodka, and his failed casinos. He has a history of over-promising and under-delivering. Now, with the auto industry at stake, it seems he's making the same mistakes again. Share your thoughts in the comments and remember to subscribe for more updates.